the deal. And today it's going to be a little bit different. I'm just going to have a short conversation with you. And we're going to be talking about what's the deal with sales and how sales has changed and how there are three specific industries that the sales have actually changed as a prime example, but they are still sort of making some slow moves towards those adjustments. All right, let's go. So good morning again, LinkedIn, and good morning, Instagram, because we're also streaming on Instagram this morning. And as I say again, today I'm just having a very short, light discussion with you all. No major presentation today, no guest today, but I do want to talk about an important topic that has been kind of on my chest for a little while as it relates to the state of sales and the things that I'm seeing in the industry that sometimes sort of pains me because I've been trying my best to work with customers to help them change the way that they go about selling and doing things. And while some get it, we still have a lot of organizations that are still sort of stuck in the traditional way of going about doing their business. So today we're going to talk a little bit about the state of sales, and I'm going to be highlighting three industries that I believe really need to. I'm going to be using those industries as example as to what that change in sales has actually been and what those industries need to be doing to really adjust to the buyer. And at the end of the day, once you serve your buyer better, you're going to be able to now you're going to be able to generate the type of business that you want. So let's talk about the state of sales now. So I always say to folks that when I started off in sales, I started off in 2003. It was very old school, phone book, empty desk, and a phone. I didn't have a cell phone at the time, as a matter of fact. And even when the first cell phones came out, I don't need to tell you all what those cell phones looked like. They were nowhere close to what is it that we have now. But the approach to sales back then was very hardcore, meaning that you had to quote unquote pound pavement, right? You had to be dialing through a number of numbers. And at the end of the day, it could be really, really strenuous on a sales professional, right? So when I started off in automotive, and we had to find creative ways to get people into the showroom. So let me say that again, right? I had to find creative ways to get people into the showroom. We were offering free test drives. Excuse me. Yeah, we were offering free test drives. We were offering demos, etc., just to get people to come into the showroom on a Saturday or during the course of the week and stuff like that. All right. And of course, from there, you then had to do your do and kind of start doing your work towards getting the customer, identifying their level of interest. I also did things along the lines of going through the classified ads to look for people who may be selling their vehicles and then trying to spin that in a different way to encourage them to find out exactly as to what they might be looking for. So again, it was a lot of work back then to start sales, to sell something. And that's been my history. Moving into the tech space, also there was a lot of work in that particular space. There was not a lot of demand. Excuse me. There was not a lot of demand. And if you hear me sort of coughing, because I have a little cough, a little itchy throat. So I do have my water here, and as I say, I'm just having a conversation with you all today. So feel free to chime in and give your insights and your tips and stuff from there. My folks who might be on Facebook, I may see your comments a little bit late because Facebook comments sometimes come through a little bit later than I would like it to. But fast forward to 2008, no, fast forward to let's say around 2014, come forward, a number of things started to change, right? The internet is here, right? And there's a lot more information, and people started to talk about how more well informed the customer was, and which was true, right? And if we move it all the way up to today, we have the customers having a wealth of information and sales reps, let's say even in car sales, they don't have to be as creative as to try to be as creative as I was to get people to come into the showroom because there is demand. And what has happened is that customers already know what they're looking for, they know what they want, they know what they want to get or achieve coming out of that. Excuse me. And then from there, they also know when they want it, they know how much they want to pay for it, etc., etc. It is now up to us to do a better job in identifying those things. But here's the big problem with what's happening now. We have three industries where there's a lot of demand and they are not doing a very good job in managing the demand and also converting that demand. Those industries are real estate, higher education, and automotive sales. The customer, as far as I've seen over the past 2 years, the customer carries a lot of control. Those industries need to be adjusting some of their own approaches to now separate themselves as to position themselves, not separate, but also to position themselves or differentiate themselves a little bit as industry leaders. Because right now, a lot of that information, in terms of how the customer goes about shopping online, gathering information, interacting with your sales rep, excuse me, the customer has all of the control. And because those industries have not made those adjustments well enough, you tend to find that the industry sometimes seems to be commoditized. And I hear people talk about how competitive the industry is. But yes, all industries should have a level of competitiveness, but you have to do your part towards differentiating. But what's actually happening is that everybody's doing sometimes the same thing or nothing at all. I'll say that again. We have a number of companies in those respective industries that's either doing the same thing like everyone else or nothing at all sometimes. And that is where you begin to have the challenge when it comes to converting demand or interest into something that's tangible, which is a sale. So let's talk a little bit about the real estate industry, right? So from what I've seen, there is a lot of demand as it relates to, or interest as it relates to homes. However, most realtors are not differentiating themselves in terms of owning their own space. What do I mean when I say that? I mean, instead of having an external approach towards, excuse me, outbound approach towards generating those leads or converting those leads or putting those leads into a funnel, they need to now have an inbound approach and bringing those leads in the right way. But when certain recommendations is made as to what needs to be done, it sometimes seems to be a lot of work, right? So little things like owning your own website for a realtor is important. Then also making sure that your website is interactive enough where it allows people to interact in a different way, not just being a very static website. Apart from that, too, also educating the customer, whether it's a new home buyer, it's young home owners, it's people who just looking at selling listings and everything else. As an experienced realtor, you are supposed to have so much information on your website that is how you become an industry leader or a thought leader in your industry, and you start differentiating yourself from the rest. Differentiation has nothing to do with how many posts you put out there. Differentiation has nothing to do with, excuse me, your Instagram reels or your TikToks or whatever it is. Your differentiation is how are you educating and advising your customer towards making a better decision, and how are you now owning that space and managing your business along the lines of the customer's journey. Yeah, along the lines of the customer journey, because we are very short when it comes to the customer journey, because we only get involved in the customer journey when the customer calls us. And by that time, the customer would have gone through a number of different things as it relates to making comparisons, looking at this listing as opposed to this listing, looking at this agent as opposed to that agent. So there are too many variables that are exposed as it relates to your business. And that needs to change. So that's one industry. Let's talk a little bit about higher education. Again, another industry where there is a lot of demand. But with that demand, there's high levels of comparison, right? So you have, based upon what these students' goals are, a parent or let's say someone within the community could be a strong influencer to where that child goes. How is your institution, how is that higher education institution working towards helping attract that student, potential student, and getting them to the point where they are saying, this is the school I actually want to go to? Well, again, Instagrams, Reels, etc. doesn't work anymore. You need to be adopting an inbound approach. As a matter of fact, if you look at what has been happening now, those of us who have the websites that are working for us with forms as lead gen tools, excuse me, you will find that there's a lot of traffic that's coming in, or you may have a lot of traffic on your website. But by that traffic coming in, even if you are getting the leads, how well is your team equipped to convert that student or speak to that parent about this school being the school to help your child follow their achieve their goals, their career goals? If it is that you listen to the conversation I had last week with Jarrell Alder from the University of the West Indies, and he is passionate about student experience and engagement, he spoke about that. He spoke about the experience. He spoke about the engagement, but we are short on engagement. As a matter of fact, we only engage when the student fills out a form, when we should actually be engaging earlier in the process. These higher education institutions should have more content out there that is career specific, that is job specific, that is salary specific. Meaning, this again as an example, if I'm doing a master's in X, what is the potential? What are the 5 careers that I could actually go into after that? And coming out of those 5 careers, what's the potential salary? That is what we should be. That is how you should now be structuring your content, because someone may be making a decision. It may the seed that was planted about going for their masters or going for their degree more than likely would have started to germinate, and now they have so many options to look at. How do they now start differentiating? Because you also have influencers who will say, well, I went to this school, so maybe I should try this school. Or I know someone who went here. Or no, I will send you to this particular institution. So this is why you need to start coming out really, really early as a higher education institution and managing that student enrollment journey. I'll talk about that a lot more next week. But again, higher education and real estate are 2 industries where you have a lot of demand, but you are not doing a very good job in terms of managing that demand properly or making yourself that main differentiator. Like, I have no problem with a realtor using my bunch of keys and stuff like that, but your own website is where the traffic should actually be. You should actually be selling your homes on that. And even the way that you sell as a realtor, my folks on Instagram, if it is that we cut off, my apologies, a call is actually coming through. So if it is that you are selling as a realtor, your whole approach in terms of the information that you are giving to these people on your website as a realtor, as an agent, needs to be extremely different. It needs to be different because again, you are not just selling a house which is a 3 bedroom. If you're looking at that, you're selling a commodity, but you are actually selling a home. And one of the things I always like to tell people is pay attention to what your home meant to you, right? Your home to you would have meant that you would have had to, sometimes you got up in the morning and as a child you may have smelt your mother baking something. Those things are lasting memories. And as if you can start planting those seeds and planting those images and speaking about the community, then you will realize that the information on your website or how your website is structured, it has to be very, very different. Because again, you have demand and people will take time to go through your site. And then from there, they will start moving down your funnel, providing that you have a funnel. And the last one, which is also a very strong example as well, is automotive. Again, we're talking about how sales has changed from having to do a lot of outbound selling to now where you have to do a lot of inbound. Well, sorry, you have a lot of demand which is coming in, but the challenge is we're not converting it well enough. So what's happening in the automotive industry? Well, the automotive industry, as we know, it's highly competitive. But what I have seen is that I've seen a lot of sales professionals who have not fully adjusted to how they should be using. They're using the platforms, mind you. So they do have their posts on Instagram. They have their stuff. Some of them have their stuff on LinkedIn. Of course, a lot of them are doing stuff now on TikTok. But they're just doing it. It's not a philosophy. It's not a methodology. And if it is that they were to pick up on a philosophy or methodology, you will realize that they sell better by following that philosophy of or inbound methodology. Even if you want to follow the AIDA principle, which is attention or awareness, interest, desire, action, and then satisfaction. So AIDA, but I like to put the S on. You will realize that your approach, if you're looking at awareness, what should people be aware of about this vehicle? Because most times people just want to know the price, right? Or when a customer engages with a sales rep, they want to get a quote. So look at the stage that they're coming in at. You don't know if your quote is the number one quote or is your quote is the third option on the list or the second option on the list because they may be looking at other options. So that's why I'm saying it is extremely important that institutions, real estate agencies, higher education agencies, and automotive dealerships, you change the way that you are selling because your buyer's journey is different. And you need to change that by lining up your sales process to match the buying experience. And that is a big change. As a matter of fact, it's not very big, a big change, but it requires your marketing team, it requires your student enrollment team, it requires your sales reps in automotive and agents to do things differently. Look at Tom Ferry, right? Tom Ferry, who is a massive international real estate agent. He always talks about the purpose of video, but he also speaks about the different types of video that you want to be putting out there. And again, that is the challenge that we're having because people are just putting up listings. They're not giving any context. They're not selling the dream. And they're also not factoring that into their website. Yeah, they're also not. As a matter of fact, in many instances, there's no lead conversion strategy. You can just see it. When they put a post and they're expecting someone to hit them a message, that's not going to work. You need to follow that methodology as it relates to how you want to capture that demand properly enough, nurture that demand if the customer is not ready as yet, and then convert that demand later on. And that is the challenge we're having with the state of sales today, especially in those three industries: real estate, higher education, and automotive. Now, what is it that we need to do for that? As I was saying, adjusting your approach, not looking at your approach anymore from the standpoint of having to go out. As a matter of fact, some institutions used to be going out to meet with people and meeting with students or doing, you have open houses, but it's just general open houses and stuff like that. Or you had car shows, so you will go to the malls. We can't do those things now. You have to have virtual showrooms and stuff like that. This is where now you have to now use the power of the internet and bring that demand in. And this is where too I would always put a rap on the knuckles, for marketers who are not adjusting their approach. to support sales teams. I'm going to say that again. I will put a rap on the knuckles for marketers who are not adjusting their approach to help support sales teams. And when I talk about approach, I'm not talking about running ads, because again, I told you you have demand. But if you realize that you have the demand, but the demand is falling off, it's not converting. If you realize that you have the demand, but it's coming in with comparisons, then you as a marketer are supposed to be putting content out there that helps answer those questions for customers. And that content will help support the sales team and how they respond. And you can come together as a team and you can do that. And that is what sales enablement, that is what an inbound methodology is, and that is what those three industries need right now. That is the state of sales. The buying journey has changed. Your buyer experience has changed. And they have changed it for themselves, especially with the power of the internet and social media. And what most of us are doing is just jumping on the new social platforms, putting out a few things, and then say, well, I get some sales from TikTok, and I get some sales from this place, and I get some sales from that place. More is required, because sometimes doing that is not, big S word, sustainable. How many leads are you burning through to get to that, to get to one sale? That means that it's expensive. You might be a very expensive sales rep, enrollment person, or real estate agent, because you're seeing 10 people to close one lead. You're expensive. But organizations can help, or marketers can help put that in place better and support their teams. So it wasn't even my rant. As I said, I wanted to have a conversation with you all. As I said, I didn't see anything in the comments. So if you all did comment, my apologies. Comments come up late sometimes through StreamYard. I'm not sure why, but if there was a comment on LinkedIn, fine. Cassia, I just saw Cassia gave a round of applause on Instagram. Thank you very much, Cassia. And yes, the big word is sustainability. Yeah. If you want to understand something, go back. I did a webinar 3 weeks ago that spoke about breaking down the numbers. And breaking down the numbers looked at how can you look at your sales numbers, put a strategy behind it, but also understand if what you are doing is too expensive. And how is that fitting into your revenue model? Yeah, because your revenue model has a cost and profit. And yes, you might be selling something, but how much profit are you making based upon your costs? Are you tracking your costs properly? That's something you should go back and look at. It was done on LinkedIn. Go back and look at it. So they're on YouTube. Go and look at it. Just look for the OPAAT-SWY channel. But it is very, very important that you pay attention to where you are right now. And some of you all know that there's a shift, but you're not doing it. Spoke to a realtor recently. They don't have any infrastructure in place to manage leads now. They're doing things on paper. Come on, in 2022? Come on, man. So Cassia is saying, LOL. She was saying it was a rant, but rants mean you're passionate. So yes, I'm passionate. Yeah. So again, this is what I see in the industry, and this is what kind of pains me sometimes, because I see a reluctance for companies to make the change that's needed to grow in the future. I think a lot of companies now are kind of waiting for things to get back to normal. And if you're going to do that, you're shortchanging your customers, you're shortchanging yourself, you're shortchanging your employees. That's just my 2 cents. So that's my time, folks. It was supposed to be a lot shorter than that, but I had a lot to say. I had a mouthful to say, so thank you for listening. And for anyone that's going to be listening to this later on, feel free to drop your comments. This is actually going to be live this is going to be on YouTube as well. So you can check out the YouTube channel for OPAAT-SWY. You can check it out here on LinkedIn. And I'm not sure if I may leave it on Instagram, but at the end of the day, please pay attention to what you need to be doing now. If you're not sure, give me a call. I am open to having a conversation with you about what you need to be doing now to change the way you sell, to match the way your customers buy and grow your business. All right, folks. So take care. Peace. I'll catch you all next week with another cool episode. All right. Peace.